Continue our infertility series today with a look at male infertility. There are many biological and environmental factors that come into play, and joining us now with some natural and organic ways to increase the chances of conceiving is Dr. Dave Hamilton from New River Natural Health. Welcome, great to see you again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so last week we were talking a little bit about the female infertility.
Yeah.
And so we want to talk to the men right now because there's a lot that goes into this. I mean, this is devastating. 1 in 7 couples is experiencing infertility right now.
Absolutely. And a lot of times when you go, if you have been through this process, a lot of times the focus is really all on the women, even in my own personal journey through this process. And there's really hardly anything given to the men other than, all right, let's check your swimmers. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
And that's it. It's all focused on the women, but there's more involved with the men. So let's talk a little bit about, maybe the causes of male infertility. Are there environmental factors?
Sure, there's lots of environmental factors. So smoking, alcohol, those are right? Food, right? Lots of processed food. Being obese can play a role. Toxic work environments. So if you're working a job that is, say, maybe it's a labor job or in the factory and you're inhaling lots of chemicals, things like that, that can play a role. Okay. And I speak to this because a lot of men do work in some of those roles. Okay. Women do too, but a lot of men work in those labor jobs. So those are some things that can play a role. So if you're having trouble conceiving, think about what it is that you're doing, what other factors could play a role there. Other things physically for men is something called a varicocele, which is kind of it doesn't allow the testicles to cool appropriately. And so that can change the morphology, the shape, and count of the semen that's there.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about some of the testing that's available. Sure. A lot of these treatments can be very expensive. So we want to start with maybe some diagnostic testing first to see what's going on, right? What's involved in it?
So same thing with the women. Men will check for testosterone. Estrogen will look for luteinizing and follicle stimulating hormone, and those can tell how the semen are being created or not being created well, and during different parts of like that cycle of creation. Okay. Other things that are commonly run in like a physical exam would be like thyroid, right? Looking at metabolism, blood sugar, iron status. Okay. Those types of things play a huge role in development of that of good quality semen.
Yeah, and if you do that testing, maybe it's something as simple as maybe you need a vitamin B or something like that in your diet.
Sure.
And it's as easy as that, but then sometimes it's more complicated, right?
Right. So like there can be micronutrient testing too. So if you're not sure where those things are coming from, where to get them in your diet, like zinc, for instance, that's important for the formation of those sex gametes too.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about a semen analysis. That's another aspect that's very important.
Right. Right. So I always recommend if couples haven't done this, do this. And you might have to do it a few times because the life cycle of semen is about 90 days. And so if you're doing some things, but you check every 30 days, you may not get a major improvement right away because there hasn't been enough time for those things to develop. So we want to look at the size, the shape, how these guys move around, okay, the viscosity of the semen. So, and that means if it's too thick, these guys get stuck like glue. They can't move around, and so they'll never get to that final point. And it's remarkable that any of us are here because only I think 1 in 70,000 make it to the egg. So it's pretty wild.
It really is a miracle, right? Yeah, and give yourself some time, right? I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, for some people it does, but give yourself some grace.
Right.
And I think that we talked about this last time, and I really think that it's important for us to stress the importance of checking your cortisol levels, right? I mean, stress plays a huge part.
It does. And again, this goes for both sides. And I touched on this last time as well, but cortisol can mimic some of the sex hormones in our body and can reduce the amount of, like, say, quality of semen that's being made, testosterone, for instance. So a lot of guys who are maybe really, really tired, having trouble with like body mass, maintaining muscle mass in general, a lot of times cortisol is the blame.
Yeah.
And that can be managed.
Right, absolutely. And we want to talk about the importance of overall health. You kind of, touched on that a little bit with, if you're overweight, maybe lose some weight. But there's other things, eating right, exercise, those kind of things.
Yeah, and some of this will go into part 2, but nutrition plays a big role. And not just on, if you don't have the right building blocks, you're not going to make the best parts of you. So think about what you're eating, being mindful of what you're putting into your body. And that also goes for other things that you might consume too. So that can go for media, that can go for other chemicals you use in your house. All these things play a role in our overall health. Little bits at a time, not a big deal, but if it's a consistent thing that we're doing incorrectly, it's going to add up.
Right. Yeah. Everything in moderation, as they say.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. And you'll be back. We're going to talk more about this, but there's the information on your screen. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Dr. Dave for more information. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Natalie.
All right.